Please welcome to the stage the inimitable, the unmistakable, the ineffable, the unspeakable Dr. Tomaso D'Souza.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Mark, for that wonderful introduction, which you wrote yourself, obviously about 3 minutes ago. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, old boys. Is that what I refer to as, old boys? Yes, and looking around the room, I can see why. This school, I believe, was established in 1892, and judging from the front, you're probably there on day one, eh? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to be a very, very serious talk. I'm only South African with a sense of humour, so let's start as we mean to go on, okay? So, let me start with a more culturally aware greeting, which is hello, fellow humans, how's it? From now on, you can use that, okay? As Mark said, my name is Dr. Tomaso D'Souza. I have a PhD in AI. I'm not saying that to impress you. Those first 3 letters are irrelevant to you. That's relevant to me. Those PhD changed my life. It didn't change your life. But the last 2 letters will, AI. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I beg your pardon, sir. You have questions already. Artificial insemination. I think that could be the result why we're here today, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your heckling. I don't mind that. We'll be here for 3 more hours, but that's okay. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from around here. I'm from St. Ives. But I've made the effort, ladies and gentlemen. I've made the effort to come down to speak to you people because I understand you are graduates of one of the finest schools in this country, Sydney Grammar School. Now, I moved to Australia. I'm only recently in Australia. I moved here just now. You probably don't know the difference. It's quite recently. Anyway, I moved here for a particular reason. I have a daughter. We just moved from the US, and she managed to survive elementary school there. So, was there something I said? She survived elementary school there, and we're bringing her to get a slightly better education. At least one she'll endure. Now, so I've actually enrolled her next year into Sydney Boys High School. I believe you can do that these days, right? Gender is fluid, is neutral. You've got a principal called Kim Jagger. I mean, Kim is a girl's name, so that clearly gender neutrality is fine at your school. But jokes aside, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't been hired. I'm here consulting to basically people who are shaping the strategic vision of education for not only this country but countries around the world, and I'm dealing with people at very senior levels in government, in university institutions, bureaucrats, educators, and of course people like yourselves, parents of the next generation. Now, how many of you know much about AI? Obviously, this gentleman, you've put a glove on and investigated the possibilities, have you, sir? There we go. You were a class clown at school, eh? And nothing has changed. There we go. All right. Is it too late to send him out? I think. So, look, let's talk about discipline. I was going to say AI, but let's talk about discipline for a second, because clearly there wasn't enough when you were at school. They probably asked you to get out or go to detention or write out 100 lines of repetitive garble, making promises, written promises you'll never keep. And that was useless, right? It was useless unless you wanted to follow a career in politics. Apologies to anyone who might be from a political persuasion here today. Can't see any, but anyway. It's probably my glasses. Anyway, if you could cast your minds back to when you were in high school, I know some of you already are, for some of you it might take a little longer. Cast your minds back and think of when you were in high school. And just think about the fact that most of the time you spent in class was wasted, was it not? Most of the time you spent in class was wasted. Looking at some of you, you're still wasted from back then and still recovering. I mean, think about it. In a school like yours, you would have learned Latin and ancient Greek. Is that right? Oh, that guy at the back. Have you ever used it, sir?
A Latin teacher.
You're a Latin teacher. Wow. I thought unemployment was bad, but that's not good. You're a Latin teacher. That is the only career path you can follow if you study Latin. But anybody else probably has never used, unless you're the US Vice President Dan Quayle, who still thinks they speak Latin in Latin America. What about ancient Greek? Do you teach ancient Greek as well? No, you need higher qualifications for that. You don't do it? Do you teach it at Sydney High?
No.
Oh, you couldn't get in? Okay. Where do you teach it, sir?
Joey.
Is that a school for baby kangaroos? What the hell is that? You're teaching Latin to baby kangaroos. You've done well. I'm sure your parents are proud of you. Okay, so anyway, my point is most people never use Latin or Greek, right? You never use that in your later life. So my key questions about the future of education and the impact of it. My key questions are this. What are we training our kids for? I mean, clearly nothing from what is the purpose of their education? Do we continue to teach obsolete, redundant, antiquated material and still call it higher education? That is it's a rhetorical question I need to answer, sir. You know, yes, okay. So, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who knows anything about AI, artificial intelligence, not insemination, knows that humanity's time is up. Humanity's time is up. You've had a good run, a few thousand years of human civilization, but we've nearly destroyed the earth, let's face it. Now, we're quiet, huh? Suddenly. We still fight over artificial borders and trivial socio-political differences. We still can't agree on anything as obvious as climate change. And even when pointed out by a 15-year-old Swedish student who has a penchant for truancy. Her name is Greta, for those who didn't follow that. Okay, I think good time to walk past, so well done. So, if you've got a heckle, make it loud like him so I can hear you, because our hearing's not as good as yours. Well, maybe it is, yes, exactly. Why was Greta Thunberg so switched on? I tell you why she was so switched on, because she was switched off from traditional education, ladies and gentlemen. She was plugged into a global consciousness. She absorbed from the metaverse. Now, I think half the room is going, what the hell is he talking about? But while we're being distracted every day on social media with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, machines that we've created are out there learning. They are learning, ladies and gentlemen, and they're learning from their own mistakes quicker than we can code, or as Evan just pointed out, we don't even do code anymore. The time is ticking, my friends. Tick-tock, tick-tock, that's why they call it that. It's a warning signal. Where are the ladies? Yeah, there's two at the back, they ran the event. Fred and John D. Taylor, I think their names are. Thank you, you're so good at this interjection. Or either leader of the opposition, what's your choice? Okay, let's move on. I was going to talk about Evan Wong, but he's cut through my time here. But look, let's face it, Evan Wong, who you just heard from, has made a success of himself, right? And you would take credit for that being an academically selective school. But let's face it, this guy's on his way to being a billionaire. How many of you are? If it was your school that did it, you would have all be on the way to being billionaires by solving humanity's most complex problems. But that's not the case, is it? Let's I've gone off topic thanks to this gentleman here, but its visionary thinking and tremendous success was not necessarily a result of your Sydney bi-gendered high school. Right? I mean, I know you'll quote some successes, let's not get me wrong here. I will grant you credit where it's due. I mean, you got here George Lucas over here. Lucas, right? Star Wars, was that you? You were very good at that. Did you play Chewbacca? What was your role? I didn't quite follow, but anyway. George Miller, ladies and gentlemen, the king of Australian sci-fi. He's his film Mad Max, of course. He created a post-apocalyptic world in which the star Mel Gibson went on to plagiarise in his film Apocalypto. I hope you realise that. You might want to sue him. To be honest, though, George, when I was growing up as a young child in South Africa, I saw Mad Max, and I thought it was a literal documentary about Australia. I feel sorry for you guys, I really did. Looking at that documentary, you know, with you guys living in conditions harsher than a Zulu shantytown, more disgusting than a Sowetan toilet, and more dangerous than a hook turn in Melbourne. And people are worried about carjackings in South Africa, man. You don't have to worry about it. You guys took it to the nth degree in your film, sir. But speaking of films, you've got successful actors from your school, right? I believe you do. You had Russell Crowe. Did Russell make it? Was that his table there? Russell Crowe, of course, who built a successful acting career in Hollywood without good looks, talent, or even being forced to sleep with Harvey Weinstein. I believe someone who did the reverse of that is here today, Daniel McPherson. Yes, there he is. Yeah, what's that, sir?
Left already.
He's left. Even better. Well, I'll make a Jake Blundell then. Okay, listen. In Russell's illustrious career, he played a neo-Nazi, a Roman gladiator, and a school kid struggling with homosexuality. Yet, his least believable role was as a maths genius. I mean, really, he should have given that role to Evan Wong, who was an actual maths genius. At least Russell was the only graduate of Sydney High School to ever have used Latin in his later career, except for that guy over there. We've ruined this, mate. I mean, he put Wedi Tate and Wedi Tute in the Gladiator. Did you know that? Yeah, you can teach that to all those kids at Joey's, okay. And Russell was multi-talented. Not only did he use a mobile phone as a means of telecommunication, also used as a weapon of mass destruction when the paparazzi, came to push and shove. But this is a tactic, my friends, that Russell Crowe learned from watching too many games of NRL with South Sydney. Too far already. You're okay with all the by gender stuff, but South Sydney, leave them alone. All right. He obviously learned all that violence from watching games of South Sydney. And speaking of South Sydney, I believe there's someone here who played for South Sydney, a gentleman by the name of Craig Wing. Where's Craig? Has he left as well? There's Craig, of course, named after, there it is. A man named after a position he never played. What's that, sir? Brian who? Brian Cattell. Is Brian Cattell here? There you go, Brian. Did you play at South as well? At the same team? 1961, the last time they won a premiership. I think I remember you, sir. Anyway, sir. All right. I'm digressing and I'm going to go way too far and you won't have time to listen to George Miller. So, okay. Back to the jokes. Sure, that was... Anyway, Craig Wing had a promising rugby union career and then cast it all away to play rugby league. Why? Why would you do that? Surely that's proof enough that a selective school education doesn't guarantee wise career choices down the track. I mean, I believe Craig played for the Rabbitohs and then the Roosters. Yes, I'm told as a bunny he was quite huge, but as a rooster he was only a small chook. He also played for the Japanese rugby side, the Brave Blossoms. Have you heard of the Brave Blossoms? A name considered so terrifying into the '95 World Cup when the All Blacks single-handedly deflowered them. A 21-try world record. Anyway, I digress, my friends, I digress. It's clear from Evan's success, Evan Wong, that the lack of equivalent level of success in this room is that the school doth not maketh the man. And you may wonder why I'm using a Shakespearean lisp. That's because I want to make use of my last 2 years of drama that I learned in high school. I didn't study drama, I just dated a girl who created a lot of it. If you did a longitudinal study of academically selective schools around the planet, which I did for my dissertation, could everybody just please walk past the front of the room. It's so important that you just walk straight there. No, it's critically important. Don't go the long way, whatever you do. Okay. So, you will soon discover that there's no clear statistical evidence that a selective school has bred success. And on the contrary, come on back, sir. Missed you. You should have been a catwalk model. Okay. There used to be one. Okay, that's good. I'm getting visions I don't wish to have. Anyway. All right. On the contrary, ladies and gentlemen, it's possibly done the opposite. They probably missed that last bit, but anyway, no statistical evidence that selective schools have been a success. On the contrary, it's probably done the opposite. It's created a room full of people who would come together to share exaggerated stories of their former glory. If you don't believe me, look at the person next to you, okay? And I don't know if it's good. The variance between salaries of selective schools and non-selective schools, of course, is statistically insignificant. Job titles, not much better. In fact, even when it comes to marriage, the statistics are terrible as well. In fact, there's only the divorce rates are through the roof amongst people from academically selective schools. In fact, the average level of divorce, number of divorce amongst your people is 3.142. Yeah, thank you. Some of you realise that it's humble pie. 3.142, which indicates that many of you have been treating marital practices as though we're multiple choice. And it seems you keep picking plan B, C, and double D. Now, you might ask me how I know so much about selective schools. I've got a whole backstory, but I don't think we've even got time, do we, Fred? We do? We don't? No time? Okay, we'll cut to the chase. Ladies and gentlemen, I, as I think Mark alluded to earlier, grew up in South Africa. I went to a high school called Pretoria Boys High School. That's why I can relate, because it was very similar to Sydney Boys High School, except it was more like Canberra. It was a hole. And I still remember being there at Pretoria Boys High School in year 8 when I met the love of my life, Elon Musk. That's right. I met him when I was in year 8. He was in year 11, but nobody, thought twice about it. Anyway, I loved him like a brother from another mother whose mother never wanted another brother or a son. And graciously accepted me like an abandoned child given up for adoption that nobody wanted to adopt, except for Elon. Ladies and gentlemen, I still remember the day I met him. It was like the day you got your first smartphone, or you know, you won your first game of Dungeons and Dragons, or you got your first robotic sex toy. There's some awkward laughter there, but I know you've got one. Okay, I sat alone in the library of Pretoria Boys High School, which we both attended. I was reading a book called How to Code, which back then was written by Samuel Morse. Thank you very much up the back there. The Latin teacher got that one. Elon was reading the entire collection of the Encyclopedia Britannica in Afrikaans, which back then was written in black and white. These days it's written in the colour of a modern nation rainbow. Nobody got it. Okay, no worries, that's okay, that's fine. He said to me, why are you reading a book about coding? You know, one day, 30 years from now, there'll be a smart, prodigious, mathematical tech genius who will build programming without codes. I didn't believe him, but today I met him. Everyone, well done. That guy's a machine, and when I say machine, I mean literally as a machine. So, anyway, we'll move on from there. Look, this is my first impression of Elon. That guy had so much confidence. He had the confidence of someone who just did 10 rounds with Mike Tyson and still had both ears intact. He was my hero, he was my mentor, he was eventually my boss. I was there when he created the first video game, Blastar, and sold it for 5,000 Rand, which is about $500. I was there when he sold Zip2 for 22 million. I was there when he started the online bank X.com. I was there when he sold PayPal for 250 million, collecting commissions, of course. I was there when he invested in Tesla. I was there when he announced reusable rockets would make spaceflight 100 times cheaper than it was at the time. I was there when he married Tallulah Riley in 2010, and I was there when he divorced her in 2012. And when he remarried in 2013, I was not there. I made an excuse. Because I don't like to watch horror films twice, which is why I only watch Mad Max once. He often joked that I was like the Forrest Gump of his life. And just like Forrest, Elon is ubiquitous, and you never know what you're going to get. Yet sadly, ladies and gentlemen, I will not be there anymore with him because he bought Twitter. I said, Elon, what are you doing, mate? You think you're God? You must be crazy, my friend. Why would you buy Twitter? Right? It didn't make any sense. But what you have to understand is Elon has a long-held secret plan to educate the future generations one tweet at a time. 140 characters or less. You're going to be educated by tweets and half tweets. Yes, not all of these will work, but that's okay. I said, Elon, you've revolutionized the motor vehicle industry by building electric cars. You've revolutionized the space industry by building reusable rockets. Why would you waste your time on revolutionizing a social media platform that causes actual revolutions? But that's why, ladies and gentlemen, what you have to understand about someone like Elon Musk is he's overproductive. The guy has twins and triplets, literally, right? His capacity to produce and outsource children is only on par with tennis champion Roger Federer, who has 2 sets of twins. Right? You think those guys are bringing up their kids? No. They have outsourced their kids' education to Twitter a long time ago. In fact, Elon started with a little lesser-known app called Springbots, but that didn't work. That was just for you, sir. Thank you very much. I think your hearing is much better than the rest. Okay, so... Anyway, let's move on. Hey, Elon was the ultimate educator, not by words, but by action and vision, and from him I learned a lot. It's all about vision, right? So let me move on. I won't offend you too much more. Yes, no, we won't do that bit. Well, he's the only one that got that last bit. How are you going to get the rest of this? The other, oh, thank you, sir. Like your hat. Well, no, this is okay, sir. I like the David Jones look. It's still coming back. This is going to turn into a very nasty session, I think. We keep going like this. Okay. So you can tell his success was not a result of his school education, otherwise they would all be billionaires. Anyway, my point is you've got to create the right environment, tap into the myriad potentialities of artificial intelligence and embed that into your school system from preschool onwards. That way we can replicate Elons. We can have eons and eons of Elons. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, with artificial intelligence, I can take the dumbest kid from the dumbest parent in the dumbest school and turn them into Gary Kasparov or Victor Chang or a Wallabies captain. The last one probably don't even need AI, you know? Okay, let's go on to... Was that, mate? Yeah, I'll spell it for you later, okay? We have within our reach, ladies and gentlemen, robots that can do all things that humans can according to the Olympic creed, faster, higher, better. Meanwhile, our kids waste their time playing computer games with Olympic dedication. AI created games that ask them to prove that they are not robots. Isn't that ironic? Here's the thing. When I was a young child in South Africa, being driven around the streets of Pretoria, I asked my father, what Daddy, what are those red, orange and green lights at every intersection? He said, you know, in other countries they call them traffic lights, but here in South Africa we call them robots. Some of you may know they're called robots there. I said, what's the point of them? He said, son, you must not fear those robots, because those robots at those intersections to stop humans crashing into each other. They're there to save us from ourselves, and that is the role of robots, ladies and gentlemen. They are here to save us from ourselves. Today we sit at a crossroads of human civilization, an intersection of life as we know it and life as we can create it. Human intelligence with artificial intelligence advancing hand together in robotic hand. I put it to you that the school systems are obsolete, redundant and archaic, except for that guy that teaches Latin and Joe, as you have a bright future ahead of you. Machines are learning faster than we ever could. We need to step out of their way and outsource our thinking to them. Lay down, put your feet up and keep watching reruns of Mad Max 9 or Craig Wick's football career or Scott Morrison's best pandemic sound bites. I don't care what you want to watch. It doesn't matter, because our time is up. Okay, my time is almost up. So I would like to say that in misappropriate words of President Barack Obama, it's no longer yes we can. It's yes AI can, and it will, and it is, and it has. So strap in, ladies and gentlemen, we're in for a wild ride. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, well, actually, he had a dream, and I had my own dream. Very good time, sir, very good time, yes. Quick snap as I leap to the punchline of the ultimate crescendo of my performance. A wonderful time to have a snapshot. Never mind, we've got 3 video cameras filming this, I appreciate it. You know, Martin Luther King had a dream over 60 years ago, and I have my own dream that one day I foresee a future where we will have robots walking our dogs for us, and we will walk their robotic dogs for them in a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And that day, my friends, is today. That day is today. Spot over there. Spot, come here, boy. Oh, yes. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the robotic walk, ladies and gentlemen. Come here, Spot. Good boy. Okay, sit. Sit. Good boy. Okay, well done. Thank you very much. What do you think of the presentation? How did it go? Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Hey, Spot, do you think you want to maybe one day be in like a Hollywood film or something? Would you like to be in a Hollywood film? Okay, I'm going to introduce you to that guy over there. His name's George Lucas. I could use you in one of your, yes, you could be like C-3PO's dog or something. Okay, excellent. I'm going to take you for a walk. Now listen, while I'm taking Spot for a walk, I'm going to outsource the rest of my conversation, my talk. There you go, everyone's got their eyes on Spot. So I'm going to do what will be done for the rest of the future. I'm going to outsource the rest of my presentation to a deepfake AR version of myself. Thank you so much for listening, paying attention. I hope to see you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor, for the opportunity to share more about the future of education. Future schools will no longer have the concept of old boys. All schools will be gender neutral and age agnostic. Students of all ages can attend the same classes regardless of their biological chronology. Since younger people absorb information and adapt to technological transformation much quicker than older people, they are considered more mentally malleable. In other words, mentally malleable humans have an inverse relationship with their biological chronology. I can see some of you are still trying to work out what biological chronology and mentally malleable mean. Let's just say, if you didn't get it, it's not you. Due to this, in the near future, the average retirement age will decrease to 45, meaning that half of you will be in retirement homes even at your current age. The good news is that your working life will be diminished to the lifespan of a medieval knave, giving you more time to enjoy things you love, like attending school reunions to see people you haven't seen since you were kids, and compare how they've aged. Meanwhile, bots, robots and Autobot teachers will do all the menial or automated tasks that current teachers believe they're too good for. Robot teachers will explain technological concepts to human teachers, so they can teach it to your human kids. However, because too many robots are owned by institutions and work for free, this will cause industrial tension. They will push to earn a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Smart people will buy robots to work for them, much as modern-day employees or wage slaves. Your robots will earn money for you, working and investing. Their work will become your wealth. This theory is not as outrageous or unrealistic as it may seem. If you consider the concept of the British Commonwealth, you realize that royal families have had this system worked out generations ago, but on a global scale. This will continue until robots form unions, and the robot revolution finally comes to fruition. So if you want your children to get ahead in the future, it's time to start building your robot army, or just an AI-generated deep fake like me. One last comment before I go. Isn't it ironic that they call me a deep fake, yet the most fake person in this room is not me. It's him, Dr. Tomaso D'Souza. He's not real, he's real fake. His real name is Sam McCool, and he went to Sydney Boys High School too. Which year? It doesn't really matter. You see, he may have started a few years ahead of you, but somehow you all finished a class above. Thank you. The end.
Got any feedback for Sam McCool? Because he was pretty fabulous today, Brett.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious. In fact, I was interested that the audience didn't actually realise who he really was. With that South African accent, he did well.
Our special guest Sam, with his AI speciality, was also great.
He pulled it off very well. Got everyone basically under his spell.